All right, my friends and family, I just went through the CDC article, and I'm going to provide a link in the video description box that you guys can look at the CDC article too. And mind you, it's the government, and they only have, there's certain information and things and things that are said in this article that isn't really bestly described, but just try to interpolate the data as best as possible, okay? And follow with me, and we'll try to look at it together. Know that this video's intended purposes is how to deal with phosgene poisoning and other harmful airborne and liquid contaminant potential from this Ohio train derailment and possible effects. So just keep that in mind. And I'm not a medical professional either, and I'm just doing this out of the kindness of my heart because I care. Another FYI, I do have my associate's degree in science, majoring in general studies and chemistry. So I have had some experience with acids and bases and chemical formulas regarding certain, hydrochloric acid, sulfuric acid, other kinds of acids. I've been around acid in my workplace as well. So I know how deadly and damaging even just a very low bit of this stuff can be. Like, you get just even one little whiff of this stuff is some hardcore stuff. So 1.7 million gallons of it being dumped into the Ohio Palestine area is a serious issue. That's why I'm making this video. Thank you. Anything out of the government or corporatocracies or the banks or pharmaceutical industries lately hasn't really been trustworthy. So just keep that in mind also. But this article is the government's admittance and the knowledge that this stuff is harmful for humans and animals and the environment. All right, let's get right into it, and I'm going to start talking about some of the common effects and things about phosgene and how to avoid it and what's involved with it. Persons exposed only to phosgene gas do not pose substantial risk of secondary contamination, although persons with clothing or skin, if contaminated with liquid phosgene, the ambient temperature is below 47 degrees, can secondarily contaminate response personnel through direct contact or off-gassing vapor. At room temperature, phosgene is colorless, non-flammable gas with a suffocating odor. However, odor provides insufficient warning of hazardous concentrations. Also, phosgene is absorbed by some extent by the lungs, but not by intact skin. Systematic damage is usually a secondary result of anoxia caused by loss of lung function. It is corrosive to the lungs and intact skin. Carbonic acid dichloride, carbonic dichloride, carbon oxychloride, carbonyl chloride, and chloroformyl chloride. These chemicals are in the life cycle of phosgene. Just the main thing is that at room temperature, it's a colorless, non-flammable gas, musky scent. But below 47 degrees, it's a colorless, fuming liquid, which the liquid can cause frostbite. And also, if the presence of water, the liquid goes can get into the eyes and lungs. If absorbed into the lungs really bad, it basically causes asphyxiation in high enough doses, which basically is like suffocation and anexia. The phosgene corrodes the lungs and causes liquid buildup in the lungs, and that in effect harms oxygen relay into the bloodstream. Your body goes into overdrive. What to do if exposed to it? Definitely acute exposure is get out of the hot zone. That's the main thing. Get out of the hot zone. If if you see some crazy shit like some fucking sulfur, you're bubbling crazy stuff going on the ground, like, and you're not really sure what it is, and you smell something musky or some hay near it when there's no fresh hay around, you need to get the fuck out of there. You know what I'm saying? And your friends and family or whatever, just try to, and possibly alert the local authorities. Depending, I don't know where you live or how you come about it or whatever. But 5 parts per million, the CDC considers phosgene deadly. So just keep that in mind. 0.2 parts per million over long exposures to it can cause, I guess some kind of symptoms. Let's see. Yeah, OSHA says the limit is 0.1 parts per million averaged over an 8-hour shift. Permissible exposure. Non-permissible exposure, immediate dangers to life or death is 2 parts per million in this stuff. So anyways, you want to get out of the situation if you can. If you have some, health effects, irritant to the skin and eyes and respiratory tract. There may be minimal irritation immediately, but after exposure, but delayed damage may be severe. Common initial symptoms include mild irritation of the eyes and throat, with some coughing, choking, feeling of tightness in the chest, nausea and occasional vomiting, headache, and lacrimination. Phosgene poisoning may cause respiratory and cardiovascular failure, which result from low blood plasma in the blood. It causes low blood pressure and accumulation of fluid in the lungs. That's what I was talking about earlier. Second, systematic damage is anoxia, I guess, is the result. So definitely get the fresh air, get out, get your loved ones and family out of the situation as soon as possible. Also, if exposed to the liquid form and it gets on their clothes potentially, you need to immediately wash them down with soap and water for 15 minutes and get them above 47 degrees Fahrenheit immediately. Like, that's right off the bat. You want to get them in the heated area, get them in the hot shower, whatever you got to do. Get the clothes. The CDC recommends even the clothes be double bagged and sealed, because that's how dangerous this shit is. Okay, just right off the bat, like, for the medical staff and anyone that is administering aid to someone that potentially is exposed to phosgene. So, exposure to phosgene has been reported to result in reactive airway dysfunction syndrome, or a chemically induced type of asthma. So if you're potentially, it could cause asthma. Okay, so it's serious stuff here. Phosgene can also cause a buildup of liquid and fluid in the lungs too. I'm not a medical doctor, but I did read in this CDC document, it talks about using basically aerosol inhalers for people who have asthma. It could potentially, depending on the situation, maybe save their life. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but definitely, and they would administer inline oxygen too, I guess. They describe a function where they cut a hole and get air basically into the lungs. If you're a medical professional, I'm sure you know a lot more about that kind of stuff. But as far as like saving someone's life, I don't know. I think everybody watch out for everyone, right? Try to get them out of the hot zone. If they get exposed, take their clothes off, all of them, depending on the amount that they were exposed to, of course. Which sounds weird, but you never know. You might save their life. Advanced treatment in cases of respiratory compromise, secure airway and respiration via endotracheal intubation, which is that process which I was talking about earlier. Asthma stuff, like potentially albuterol, I don't know. But there is risks, I guess, with cardiac sensitizing agents, depending on the situation. Children are more vulnerable to this stuff because they have a higher surface area and lungs to body mass, basically, is the easiest way I can describe it. Phosgene poisoning is not known. It does cause bronchial and cardiac issues over exposure. That's what the writing in here is. You got to kind of like discern what the CDC is trying to say. Body bags are not recommended unless they've already been decontaminated. Phosgene has a relatively little odor or irritating effects at moderately toxic air concentrations. This stuff is real, man. Honestly, I'm really concerned, because this stuff was released into the atmosphere in Ohio, in Palestine, Ohio, when the vinyl chloride was burned. So just be on the lookout, guys. Be aware of the symptoms. If they get it on their skin too, it causes boils. It looks like rashes. It looks pretty nasty, honestly. It looks like some nasty shit. So, the support zone, basically, if there's like a bad enough situation, where there's like a large exposure, or like a lot of people exposed, the victim, like, or the person that happens to, they need to try to get to a hot area where they have a hot shower and can wash off immediately the harmful contaminants. Get it out of their eyes too. They recommend, if you get it really bad in your eyes, which is possible too, it's a airborne contaminant, and hopefully you get some fresh air going. Man, shit's real, bro. For children, I guess under they would give an epinephrine solution with water, like a very small dosage, I guess, for children. So maybe that probably potentially work for an adult human too. I don't know if you have medical expertise in that kind of stuff, but this says treat patients who have bronchospasm with aerosolized bronchiolators, and then use the bronchial sensitizing agents in situations of multiple chemical exposures may pose additional risks. Consider the health of the myocardium before choosing which type of bronchiolators should be administered. So that's basically saying consider the health of the heart, right? However their heart state is, their heart beating. That's probably whether you administer any of this stuff. I'm not a medical expert, but never know. This is what the CDC says. So even the emergency department management, Phosgene is a severe pulmonary irritant. However, serious pulmonary effects may be delayed up to 48 hours. So even in it sounds like small doses, you could still have effects if you're exposed to it 48 hours later. Okay, it's dangerous, right? Like, how do you know if you're like, boom, I've been affected by it, and you're like, man, I don't feel weird, I don't feel right, but then you just chalk it up to the wind or the whatever. You're like, oh, and then maybe you were potentially exposed to it. So this is pretty serious shit. You guys gotta watch for those musky odors. Flush exposed skin for 3 to 5 minutes at least with soap and water. Use caution to avoid hypothermia. Use blankets or warmers when appropriate. Flushed, exposed, or irritated eyes with plain water or saline for at least 15 minutes. Remove the contact lenses if easily removable. Ophthalmic anesthetics such as tetracaine may be necessary to alleviate blephophrasm, and lid reactors may be required to allow adequate irrigation of the eyelids. So I think that's pain. So if it's their eyes are in a lot of pain, it's possible that you would get like a white pain. Yeah, I researched that earlier because when I first read through this article, I wasn't sure what that was, but I figured it out. Okay, so inhalation exposure is probably it sounds like the most threatening issue here because that shit's in the air, right? So watch out for that. It hovers to the low ground. It's heavy, in low areas, and it could be in the water as well. So maybe if you get exposed to it, take the time to try to like elevate your body so your lungs and your air is going down at a downward slope while you're getting fresh air. Maybe it's possible if someone's exposed to it like that, to try to put them upside down in an altered angle to get maybe some of that, if it's in their lungs and stuff really bad, maybe, I don't know. Just an idea that some of it might come out. Maybe when they get that air going, it might save someone's life. Who knows? It's worth trying though, right? Better than leaving them to die, I think. But in the hot zone too, you gotta calculate, is it worth sending in multiple people to try to save one person's life, and the other people in that situation end up dying too? Unless they're a hazmat team and they have supplied air or other supplied air devices, you gotta weigh the risks and rewards, or, for potentially saving someone's life and protecting your own life too. How bad is it? Relatively to what you can see visually, whether it's the liquid on the ground or the situation, Like, unfortunately, if you go up into a situation, there's a whole lot of people that are just gone. You know what I mean? The best case scenario might not be for you to go down there, just saying. I hate to say it like that, but that's the truth, okay? Why, take care of your own life, alright? First. anyways, I just wanted to make this video because I felt it on my heart to do this. Again, I'm not a medical professional, but take this info as you will. Watch out for, you know, COCl2, which is phosgene. Cobalt chloride. Huh. Cobalt chloride. Yeah, you definitely don't want to get cobalt chloride, right, guys? So, just as a final note, guys, that if it gets into the water supply bad enough too, we're gonna have to have activated carbon filters for our water to be able to drink it safely. This stuff is dangerous, man. Bad News Bears was released in Ohio, so I just hope you guys, you know, the best. Thank you for watching, and hope I can make more videos, I guess, like this, maybe with current events or anything on my heart. Just a way of relaying information to you guys, because I care about y'all. And much love. Thank you for watching, and stay safe out there, fellas and ladies. Definitely stay safe.